Greetings, YouTube. I'm not sure if any of you remember Oliver North from the Reagan era or have studied enough history to understand who Oliver North is from the Reagan era. But I remember him. I'm old enough to be aware of what was going on during the Reagan administration. And frankly, during the Reagan-Bush years, I thought it was the most corrupt administration since Grant. Bush Jr., of course, blew that level of corruption and dishonor right out of the water, setting a bar so high I'm praying that we never, ever reach it again. And Oliver North had something interesting to say about the current, or the recent tragedy in Benghazi. Said, where is the particular line that I'm looking for? Okay, in regards to the Iran-Contra controversy, which he was tied to intimately, says nobody died in Iran-Contra. That's a line of bull, and I'm going to explain to you why. Brian Powell of Media Matters notes, it is patently absurd to claim that no one died as a result of the Iran-Contra scandal, in which the Republican hero trafficked arms into the hands of tyrannical Iranian government, negotiated with Hezbollah terrorists, and funneled money and military equipment into the hands of violent revolutionaries in America's own backyard. The assertion that the Reagan administration's felonious dealings with terrorists and terror-sponsoring nations didn't lead to a single casualty is absurd to anyone with even the most elementary understanding of what Iran-Contra was, or to anyone with access to the internet, Powell writes. And another excerpt here that I think is important. During the Iran-Contra, top Reagan administrator officials, at the behest of the president himself, funneled money to Contra guerrilla fighters in Nicaragua and in direct violation of U.S. and international law. The Contras, contrary to Human Rights Watch, according to Human Rights Watch, were major and systematic violators of the most basic standards of the law of armed conflict, including by launching indiscriminate attacks on civilians, selectively murdering non-combatants, and mistreating prisoners. To claim that the U.S. funneled funding did not lead to the deaths of innocents beggars belief. In addition to supporting the deadly activities of the Contras, Iran-Contra resulted in the deaths of 3 members of the Central Intelligence Agency when an American aircraft carrying equipment for the anti-government guerrillas was shot down over the Nicaragua jungle. On the other side of the arms deal, Reagan trafficked weapons, including hundreds of missiles, to an oppressive Iranian regime mired in a war with Iraq. No rational person could possibly believe that the delivery of so many weapons into the hands of a violent, war-torn government didn't result in numerous deaths. I'd also like to point out that the Reagan administration trained those Contra-terrorists on U.S. soil. I know that many people refer to them as freedom fighters. The hospitals and churches that they attacked and burned down, and, for example, the nuns that they raped and murdered, probably didn't see them as freedom fighters. These were non-combat targets. They were simple acts of terror. And Oliver North is intimately linked to the fact that he helped terrorists both in Nicaragua and in Iran. He's a criminal. A lying, stinking, traitorous criminal. A violator of U.S. and international law. And the fact that he isn't currently rotting behind prison bars is an injustice that will never, ever be made right. The fact that he is free to walk around with the blood of innocents on his hands without any kind of accountability at all is just astounding. He and all those who ordered these actions that he committed should have been thrown before the Hague. And we should have just washed our hands of them. We should have turned over every single record we had about what they did and let them be dealt with in international law because they violated it. America is never going to have any kind of standing or integrity in the world's eyes until we stop doing these things. Whether it was in the Reagan administration, the Bush administration, or the current Obama administration, who are really good at killing brown people with drones. We say one thing and we do another. We have wonderful ideas and we fail miserably to live up to them every single day. But Oliver North has a special place in my heart as a man that wraps himself in the flag and holds a Bible in his hand and proclaims to the world that he is a hero and he is a lying, traitorous